So I just watched Bad Boys, and I've seen a lot of discourse online, people talking about its numbers and Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. And I think for movies, it's one of the success stories of this year. You know, based on expectations, I think Furiosa was expected to do crazy numbers. It didn't. Planet of the Apes, it didn't. Dune, they did some crazy numbers, but not to the level that was expected of them. And Bad Boys super exceeded its expectations to a point where people were saying it's an upset. And there's a lot to glean from, when I was watching it. I think it's not a movie that you forever remember, like, oh, this is the best movie ever made by Will Smith or Marima. But I think it boils down to it's an entertaining movie. And I think these guys went back to why we go to cinema. It's for that cinematic experience, but also it's just about watching an enjoyable movie. It's about watching something we can talk about during the summer. It's an action comedy, and I felt like, I don't know, there's just something about the Bad Boys franchise or in this film where the drama became, I feel like, was its strong suit. Like that's what they were trying to go for more than action comedy. And I think it fails at a certain point to mix those three things together quite well, whereby the comedy then falls flat in face of the drama because the drama is doing too much. But overall, I think what makes it more memorable is really the performance of Martin Lawrence. When I came out of it, he's up there. You remember the comedic timing, the moments, the things that he did. The editing, I feel like, didn't help it, because then you have that challenge of trying to balance three genres in one, right? And I think one reason we all fell in love with Bad Boys, and I feel like films like this, they get away with not following the formula. They get away without following the structure of film, or what makes something more entertaining, what makes something great, something that we all speak about, is people in general are in love with the two main characters, Martin Lawrence and Will Smith. And I feel like Bad Boys could be any storyline and people would still watch. And I feel, for me, speaking for myself, like why it has succeeded as much as it has done, it goes back to the love that people just have for Will Smith, and the love people just have for Martin Lawrence, to the point whereby their promotional run has been amazing. And it's not to say people have forgotten the things that happened, but it's so much has also happened between the moments in Will Smith's life, like the things that occurred with him at the Oscars, the things with his family. And I think the past 4 years have sort of shed a light on how much too much access that you give to people and what that can do, because people will come into your situation with a judgmental eye based on expectations. Back in the 2000s, how we saw celebrities as almost perfect human beings. And I feel like with the advancement of social media, we've gotten to a point whereby we start to realize, no, these people are not gods, they're just human beings, and they do some messed up stuff. I mean, they have a lot of money and they have these high societies that they live in, but I think we are now living in a period of time whereby people can judge you based on what you share and based on how much you want to let people into your private life. And I think that was much of the backlash to what Will Smith went through. But also, the thing that happened at the Oscars it's not something that anybody condones, but I feel like there's room for forgiveness and growth. And I feel like this is proof of that. I think when he apologized, maybe if people felt his apology wasn't sincere, but I also felt like people didn't feel like he owed them an apology. You humiliated a certain individual in Chris Rock, not me, and I still support your work, which I feel like this is a perfect example of, do we separate art from the artist? And I feel like in this instance, it's a very good movie from a beloved character and a beloved actor who did something at a certain point where people are willing to forgive you and still enjoy the thing that brought them towards him, And for Hollywood, I've heard like people like, oh, he's not somebody we can touch anymore. I think it just goes to prove to you how different audiences are, what the market space is. When I was watching Bad Boys, is the first time whereby demographics such as amongst blacks and Hispanics, which goes on to show you like that market also has money to spend in entertainment. It just has to be a good movie, and it has to be with someone people can relate to and people love. And I feel like Will Smith has that. He has that in the bag. It might be, in order to bridge the billions of dollars, then he has to cross over into different markets. But as a certain demographic, he has those people's support, which is what advances this film. Like Bad Boys, like Fast and Furious, there's a core audience for it that love it no matter what. It's a Vin Diesel movie. Certain people will go and watch. So for me, the success of Bad Boys is not surprising. It's like, oh, great. I remember when I was watching it, I was like, yo, this could have been like the Fast and Furious. That was my main take out of it. I was like, we could have had a lot of Bad Boys, and I think that would have been better cinema for me than some of the things we had to endure in the past, whatever amount of years since the last one. In terms of the storyline, there's a lot of enjoyable things. There's a lot of nuances to it where you're trying to showcase that these people have grown older in general, because Martin Lawrence and Will Smith have grown older, and they highlight those things. And I felt like, for me, the drama didn't really connect, because Will Smith's character is one of those characters who, he has everything going for him. He's the bad boy. He's everything that most people dream about. But Martin Lawrence's character is most people's reality, where you have to get married and you have to take on responsibilities of life. And now that he's in his 50s, he has a wife, he has a child, he has these things where he's starting to go through, call it midlife crisis, because he's having panic attacks. And I felt like the drama was almost so much forced, but also like it's a great attempt at making certain moments dramatic, but then it didn't go hand in hand with the level of pacing they were going with within the edit. So I felt like the form, I don't know what type of thing they were going for, what they were trying to achieve. So there were moments where you're watching the movie and then it takes you out, and then there's a moment, I get it. It's supposed to be iconic where it's in a gunshot and Martin Lawrence is trying to sip some drink. He's trying to catch some jelly bean. And I get it, like from the opening scene, it's been set up as this joke. But then I felt like it never sold. And I think it's something that if Martin Lawrence had done back in the 90s, it would have been fun, especially for me when I was a young kid. But now it's like, why is he doing that? It's, I think one thing I'm learning as a filmmaker is when you're making films, you constantly have to think about, why is the character doing what they're doing, and how does this serve the story? And I think sometimes you just want to put in cool stuff and be like, this is dope, this is an amazing shot, this is an amazing idea we have. But I think with films like this, especially when people are sitting in the theater, and how much people have developed, with platforms like YouTube and stuff like that, that information that an audience has, you constantly have to be able to answer that question when they ask, why is this happening? Like, what's the point of this? What's the point of this? Okay, this, you set this up, you pay it off over here. And I liked a lot of moments with it. When Will Smith's son comes in, the comedy in that aspect. One of the most memorable lines, which was also in trailers, is when they steal clothes from the white guys, and the guys are like, sing us a Reba song. I felt like that was a funny moment. There was a lot of taking stuff from here and there, and you're like, all right, cool. It's not a Michael Bay type of movie, but it's a Michael Bay type of movie, I felt like it had its moments. It had very, very beautiful moments, beautiful scenes. The wedding was well shot. I felt like the cinematography, I feel like it's a movie whereby they didn't have high expectations from it. I know it's $100 million budget film, but I don't think when they were making it or putting it out, there was that major expectation of it doing crazy things. Like, this is not going to win us an Oscar. This is not going to compete with anybody. It's just a feel-good movie for the culture, for the community, where the risk is less because it's a prequel and it's an existing IP. But I think such things make a disservice to these films, because I feel like if they're really made with that desire of making a great movie, with that desire of let's make something amazing. Like all our time is in it. I felt like it could compete at that level because the audience is there. The audience does exist that wants something from films like this and that come in with that higher expectation, especially from a Will Smith type of movie. I think he is up there in terms of people's expectations. When Will Smith is in a film, you're expecting Oscar caliber performances, and he delivered. But I think their level of expectation and just the work, there was a little bit of like, nah, it's not, like when you're watching Dune, you can tell the filmmakers really, their expectations, they know they have to deliver. So when you come out of it, you're talking about the technical stuff. This isn't a film like that. You come out of it like, all right, cool, it's a sequel. All right, on to the next one. But yeah, overally, it's a great film. Overally, it's something that you can enjoy, you and the family, you and the boys. You can take your kids to go out and watch it. There's not a lot of crazy stuff in the film. It's a good comedy. And yeah, would I wait for it to come to streaming? I mean, I can see it, but I feel like you can also just go enjoy it at the theater, man. Like it's a very great film. I think just watching it through, I don't know. Like I feel like if unless you have a great system, such films are highly enjoyable in the theater. With that said, let me know in the comment section what you thought of this film, and I'll see you in the next one.